all states have to recognize that case. Overfall.
Okay.
Overfall.
That's right.
If it reverses that, if it overrules it, states still have to. But now, this act is probably unconstitutional. Because in the United States government, the federal government has no authority to regulate marriage. It is purely under what? The Commerce Clause? They have no authority to do that.
But there's no standards.
What do you mean standing? Every state has standing.
No, the federal government does what?
No, you don't need standing to pass an act of Congress.
I never let Jelly
You only need standing in federal. You only need standing in court to challenge something.
It's not federal law.
The
federal government has to get over.
They were given it all as retained sovereignty.
They didn't have it.
My parents told me they're garbage.
The states always had
There's
sovereignty.
like a leftover plate. Like,
All right.
anything that they can say.
They can't take it away.
The Constitution didn't take away.
Right.
No.
So how can the
Only
government
you-
pass a law?
Under the Commerce Clause.
Commerce clause.
Interstate commerce. That's what it's passed under the authority. They use the interstate commerce clause.
Okay.
Everything.
Let me grab this.
Anyway, this crossed the line for me.
It's almost all
I see this recording.
Heavy sugar everywhere.
We put new batteries in yesterday.
Yeah?
It's possibly the only bad thing about Hanukkah.
In the office?
Yeah, they should be. As you go out, I'll say, we'd like to thank everyone for coming. In particular, today's share is sponsored by Rabbi Mrs. Moshe Berger, as well as our dear attendee, Rachmiel Berger, on the 25th yahrzeit of Rabbi Berger's mother, Miriam Bas Shmuel Shalom Shalom Aliyah. Yeah. Okay.
You're probably right.
But okay, and Baruch Hashem, we're here at the doorstep of Hanukkah, and actually the doorstep is quite important for Hanukkah. In Eretz Yisrael, the minhag is to light outside Hanukkah. Last week's share, yes, I will. Last week's share, we touched on how in America, the minhag is not to do that. There was differentiating opinions what Rabbi Yosef held about in America what they should do. But either way, we're here at Hanukkah. The mood of Hanukkah is quite alive in the room. Besides the perfect sufganiyot here for the experience today, which there's no isser in having sufganiyot at Erev Hanukkah. It's only matzah, Erev Pesach, or before. We also have latkes, which I was asked to thank the Rebbitzin, so I will. But,
That are delicious.
okay, Harvey adds they're delicious too.
And I've made reservations for next year already.
Oh boy, okay, that's Hashem.
Performance.
So,
I have no reservations about these lockers.
Lamaisa, I think what better way to prepare for Hanukkah besides adding the calories of the donuts, the latkes, the works for breakfast yet, but also to do shirim and to learn about the halachas of Hanukkah. And I decided this year, I actually made a note last year that I wanted to cover this topic because I think it's a hard topic to understand. It's an important topic. Today's share is entitled the Shul Menorah, its lighting and its laws. And it's interesting, for the most part, there are some halachas which you learn about in yeshiva, in Shul, by the Rav. You learn the basic halachas. But we know there's a concept, Eino Dome Shimusho Yosef, that Gadol Shimusho Yosef Mumudo. It's greater to see someone doing something in action more than just learning about it. So really the best way to learn any halacha is to see halacha in action by someone who's a bar halacha, someone who's able to, someone who's quite knowledgeable in halacha. When you see the way they are able to perform mitzvos, you get a lot of time to learn things from that. Now, I guess if we were all Hasidish and we went, it's a very big minhag by Hasidim to go and watch the Rebbe light. And for Hasidim, we watched our Rebbe light, so you'd see how he does it, what he does, how exactly he lights, how he makes the brachas, what does he do afterwards, right? He davens, he looks at the neiros. I don't know, I've seen some funny things, some people play musical instruments. There's a lot of interesting things you could see.
Yes, it counts.
But I would say the most looked at Hanukkah menorah experience that most of us have is watching the guy in Shul do it. And seeing in Shul someone get up there and light menorah, that for us is the picture, besides what we do in our own homes, but that's the picture of what light menorah is. And that carries a big burden. I tell you, I remember in yeshiva, the way that our yeshiva was noeg here in America was we did not light menorah, we did not have a break in the middle of our Sidarim on Hanukkah. Rather, the Hadlakas Neiros for both the Bachrim and the Kolol people would be after Seder. Seder would end for Bachrim at 6:30, for married people at 7:15, 7:30. And only then would people go home, would people go downstairs in yeshiva and light menorah. And the reasoning behind this in yeshiva's minhag is basic, because nowadays we don't light necessarily for the people in the street. We light mainly for the people, quote unquote, inside the house. And there's a certain middle Torah, if you're in the middle of learning, to stop and do a whole hadlaka. So they would push it off to after Seder, right? Yachmiel, you can testify. So I remember when I was a Bachar in yeshiva, what the yeshiva did do, though, was they had one person light at the right time. And they made a clap on the bima. Everybody stopped what they were doing. Person got up. Yeshiva's on stage. Made the brachos, lit the menorah, and then you go right back. V'yesh lomar, Satosa's answers. Well, it's right in the middle, in between the lines of the Gemara, in between the lines of Atosos, we light a menorah. But everyone paid good attention to that guy lighting the menorah. So I remember as a Bachar, okay, you watch the guys, it was actually Valley, California, Dallas, lit the menorah, Shmuel Wasser from St. Louis, and then came a point in time they asked me to be the one to light the menorah.
That is a major perk.
Yes, it is a major perk, a big deal. I'm standing up there by me. It was already in the new building, Kew Harton Hills. Menorah, 400 or 500 people there. I have to get up there each night. Okay, to make sure everything's set up well. Where you put the menorah, and we'll talk about that. Brachos. So I'll tell you, one of the things I was most nervous of. Definitely after the first time I did it. The first night, you get up there to make brachos, right? It's okay, I'm not a chazan, I'm down for the Amud. So I know how to do basic notes. Make the next bracha. Thunderous Amen, 400 people, 500 people. And then I did a Shachianu. Shachianu Kiman Vigano. Then I realized Shachianu Kiman Vigano that does not fit into the classic nusach. Shachianu Vikimanu Vigianu Lazman. It doesn't exactly fit. So that got me nervous the first time lighting. But you can't fix it the next night. But it's actually, that was one of the first halachas. If you make the shehecheyanu in Shul, can you go back home, which I wasn't going to like till later, and also make a shehecheyanu.
That's why you want a married man to do it.
So that is one of the
As somebody is-
quirky halachas that come up with lighting a menorah. So we're going to go through.
Why not
Hopefully-
apply to the other brothers?
Huh?
Why haven't that applied to the other brothers?
Well, I'll explain the difference, but the basic idea, the difference between shehecheyanu and the other brachos is the other brachos are clearly on the menorah, on lighting the menorah. Shehecheyanu it might be on the menorah also, but it's really on the day. Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'gilanu l'zman hazeh. So I already marked the day. I did it. That's what we do now.
Can't do it again.
So we'll get to that discussion. I will go through hopefully many halachas about the lighting of menorah in the shul. But what I want to focus on today to start with is the bigger picture. What is the mitzvah of lighting in the shul? What's the significance of it? Why do we do it? Then we'll go through all the practical things where we put the menorah, brachos, and lots of stuff. Yes.
Bracha-wise, are there any equivalents to a shul where maybe they make Kiddush on Yom Tov in shul?
Excellent point. The true Gabbai. I'll get to that. Now, the first question I guess we would ask. So again, we're spending a lot of time, right? And I do think people focus on the person lighting the shul menorah. Okay, we'll talk about when you light that menorah, how many times you light that menorah. But what I want to focus on to begin with, just a simple question. Why do we do it? What is the basis of lighting a menorah in shul? Now, okay, I know the two words you might say, but it's not so simple.
Tradition.
Lighting menorah itself, I guess that's two syllables, huh? So, lighting menorah itself, we know, is a din d'Rabbanan. It's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. There's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to light Hanukkah menorah. Is it a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to light menorah in shul? Is there a mitzvah to light menorah in shul? And the answer is no, surprisingly. There is not the mitzvah, the Chazal Misakin, to celebrate, to mark the Yontif of Hanukkah, is to light in your house, near Ish Ubeisa. There's a lot of discussion, we've talked about it over the years, right? It might be more a responsibility on the house than it is on any individual. That is, in fact, the reason why in the Sephardic communities, we go after the Mechaber, the only person who lights a menorah in a house is the father. The rest of the people in the house do not light. So, in the Sephardic community, by us, by Ashkenazim, we do, but that means the nature of the mitzvah was misakein, was made for households. Hashbashad, a shul is not a household. So if a shul is not a household, so what's the basis for lighting menorah in shul? You think about it. Also, now that I'm challenging it, right? In shul, you usually don't have the small, little menorahs. Shuls many times go all out. They have these big, huge menorahs. Each year, you see some other company comes up with a chop. Oh, we have the big shul menorah. You want to spend a few $1,000s to get something like that. Okay, first you have to know what exactly are you? We're fundraising for that menorah. Do you know the basis of that? There's no chiv d'Rabbanan to light menorah in shul. The answer is it's a minhag. Minhag. Now, obviously, it's a minhag that we do. Brought down the halacha. But the nature of that lighting is a minhag. What's the basis of the minhag? Also up for debate. Not so clear. What would you think? What is the basis of the minhag to light Hanukkah menorah? The mitzvah is to light in your house. Shul is not your house. A base medrash is not your house. So why are you lighting? What's this minhag to light?
So comparison to Kiddush, when you have guests who are staying in the shul, you would have to be able to say that.
Okay, so that's one idea, right? One idea that's being suggested is similarly that in some places, right? I think they cut it out in a certain local shul on Friday night, right?
Yes.
In some shuls, they make kiddush, they make havdalah, communal things, and for the people that need it, they'll make a kiddush in shul, they'll make havdalah in shul. So you're saying similarly, okay, perhaps some people do say that. What other reasons would you think? Yes.
Just publicizing it.
Oh, beautiful. Pursuing Isa, publicizing the miracle. Now, so if the minhag is to publicize the miracle in Shul, so what about, this is the first case that just popped in my mind. I know of two major malls now in America that are owned by actually from Jews. Right? They both happen to be in New Jersey. One's a place, American Dream. There's another place that opened in Sayre. I think more owned by Jews. So Eretz Yisrael, you have a lot of malls owned by Jews. You put up a menorah in the mall.
Yeah, you should
Do you light it over there?
Next to
It's
the
not
tree.
based on
Next
Huh?
to the tree.
Sunday Night Football did it this year.
They're laughing about the tree. Someone sent me these comments. So Josh, I preface this joke by saying I think it's more sad than funny, but they have a joke where someone's power blows, one of his outlets blow, and he only has one outlet. So you see there's a bush attached to a plug and a menorah attached to a plug. And the guy's on the phone with Rabbi Sally. Which one should I do? Hey, if I only have one plug.
Rabbi Sally, some female lesbian.
Right?
rabbi.
It's unfortunately more sad than funny. But that is the state. I'll never forget it. I've told a story before, but I think it's such a powerful story. There was one year on Hanukkah that the yeshiva decided for Kira, for Abatzas Torah. It's during the rest of the year. How do you know if someone's Jewish? So you technically, right? You see someone at the Kosel, are you Jewish? You have people working on college campuses, right, Josh? Asking, hey, are you Jewish? Okay. That's not a perfect science to find out if a person's Jewish. The best time of year to notice if a person's Jewish is do they have a menorah up in their window? And there was one of the Talmidim in the yeshiva was opening a Kiruv organization in Long Island, Hicksville, Long Island to be exact. And the yeshiva decided one night of Hanukkah to send the whole yeshiva out to go to Hicksville, Long Island, I don't know if it was Dafka Hicksville, but multiple spots way out down the LIE, and to basically make a chart, go house to house to see where you see menorahs. Actually, that worked out, and the thing was to put, something for JEP, Jewish Education Program, have the kids, even in public school or whatever, send their kids to yeshiva. This is Mama's tremendous foresight of the yeshiva. Years later, my chavrisa, my friend, is actually running a kiruv outlet. He's lived out there, in Long Island for years doing kiruv, and all result of this original fact-finding mission that was sent. But to me, as a kid who grew up in Brooklyn, one of the most eye-opening moments is when I saw the population density of a block. And I saw there were more Jews in the block and way out there in Long Island than in my block back in Brooklyn. That's how populous it was of Jewish people. Unfortunately, some of them were already menorahs with trees. But unfortunately, no, that's the state of America. But yes, Yontiv of Hanukkah, well said before, is Pursuing Nisa. And we'll talk, even if there's not a minhag, and we'll see, maybe not make a bracha if you put a menorah up in a mall or menorah up in a stadium or other places.
Buildings in the lobby.
Yeah, there may not be a minhag, a mitzvah, make a bracha, but there probably is something to that, to spread Yiddishkeit. And it's important, especially this time of year when the other religions are more active. A Jew has to know he's a Jew. Yes.
I hope I'm not jumping the gun here if I am, Tony, but if it is purely a minhag to light in Shul, why would we say a bracha? Wouldn't it be a bracha?
Excellent. So that's exactly where I'm up to. Being the fact we just set up now that the basis of lighting menorah in Shul is only a minhag, so why is it that we make those brachas? Where else in halacha does one find that you make a bracha on a minhag? Right? Normally, do we make brachas on minhagim? We make brachas on mitzvahs. Even the whole concept to make a bracha on a mitzvah d'Rabbanan is questionable. A d'Oraisa we understand, a d'Rabbanan, why you make a bracha mitzvah d'Rabbanan? So there, actually the Gemara in Shabbos by Chanukah says that a d'Rabbanan, you also make a bracha, you could say v'tzivanu, because the rabbis teach this is how to upkeep the Torah, is by marking the Yom Tov of Chanukah, so you couldn't make one on the d'Rabbanan. But a minhag? If lighting in Shul is just a minhag, so why do we make a bracha? So it's a very strong question. Yes?
It kind of goes back to what you initially started with, possibly, which was that to teach people to do it the right way. So if they're going to see what to do at home, they need to see that you have to
Interesting. Right? The argument put forth was, look, a chinuch idea. We want people to see the best way to do things. So we do things with a bracha. That would work if you're 12. Right? There's a concept of chinuch. We make brachas on the chinuch to know the right thing. But once you become bar mitzvah, right, mitzvah's chinuch is over. And although I was talking about we're constantly learning, but the mitzvah of chinuch doesn't apply anymore in that sense. Wouldn't make a bracha just for chinuch. So how do we understand it?
It wouldn't apply even for a Tino Shanishba.
No. So how do we understand it? So the Chavetz Chaim asks this question in the Mishnah Berurah. It says Tafresh Ayin Aleph Siv Katan Mem Daled. The Ramah writes, the Mechaber writes, very important to mention is the Mechaber. He writes, Beis Knesses Manichim Mikol Sedara, I'm reading the first Mar Makom. In a shul, you put it on the southern wall. Okay, we'll skip the Ramah for a moment. We light umevarchim, and we make a bracha in a shul, and he uses those words, the two words, right? Persumei nisa. So the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim explains in Mem Daled, Av the Beis Knesses Hurak minhag. Lighting in shul is only a minhag. Therefore, bothered by our question, so why is it you make a bracha? He says we make a bracha on that, just like we make a bracha on Hallel of Rosh Chodesh. Hallel on Rosh Chodesh is only a minhag. You only say half Hallel. It's a minhag on Rosh Chodesh to say Hallel. Yet we make a bracha. So Zak the Chavetz Chaim, and this is really based on a tshuva of the Rivash. That's why we make a bracha on a minhag of lighting Chanukah menorah in Shul. Yes.
Even more so, those who have the minhag to say Hallel after Ma'ariv on the first two nights of Pesach.
Okay, we can talk about that.
Right?
That's a
because
good
during COVID, it became more well known that you can't do it by yourself. It has to be with the
Yeah, good point. Okay, the Hallel of Pesach at night. That's a whole complicated own sugya, but yes, a very good point. But I noticed, perhaps in our home audience, but in our live audience, I do not see any Sfardim in the room. In Yeshiva, we run concurrent minyanim. We have a regular minyan, we have a Sfardim minyan. So people here can notice. Did anyone notice that the Sfardim always finish before us on Rosh Chodesh? Do you know why?
Because they threw out one bracha.
Because they don't say a bracha on Hallel of Rosh Chodesh.
Really?
Right? That's why they finished before us.
14 seconds.
Svardim do not say a bracha on Halal of Rosh Chodesh. They do not.
8 seconds.
Huh?
8 seconds.
That's why I said they finished before us. Rabbi Dreyfus is keeping timing.
Do they wear tefillin?
Right? They do. Yes.
All right.
Right? Sometimes 2 pairs. No. But
But not the most.
But Svardim do not make a bracha on Halal of Rosh Chodesh. You want to know why? Guess why? Because it's only a minhag. So I saw many people ask a very strong question. So how do you understand over here that the Mechaber himself says when it comes to Hanukkah, we make a bracha on Halal? Excuse me, on lighting in Shul. If you don't make a bracha on a minhag, and that's why the Mechaber says you don't make a bracha on Halal of Rosh Chodesh, so why is this minhag different? Why is this minhag different?
How come the bracha that they're saying on Hallel during Rosh Chodesh, which pulls out on Hanukkah?
Cute. So this is a highly debated question, not so simple. I'd like to share one answer that I found from Yaakov Emden, and say from Menorah Ksiya. So he says a very interesting idea. And I'm going to say the idea. I assume some people here might jump with a good kasha, and I'll explain that kasha too. For sure, Ellen. But the answer that Rabbi Yaakov Emden gives is we don't make brachas on minhagim. That's a general rule. We don't. And that's why the Mechaber says, you don't make a bracha for Halal. We Ashkenazim do. And therefore, this whole question is moot, as the Chavetz Chaim said. But we're asking according to the Mechaber. So how come the Mechaber writes over here, by Chanukah, we make a bracha on the Shul lighting the menorah, if it's only a minhag? So he answers that what makes lighting a candle on Hanukkah a Hanukkah lighting? Because you put it in your menorah. You don't have to have a menorah. If you have to be away, we know the Iker mitzvah is 1 candle each night. You don't have to do 8 candles. And it doesn't have to be a menorah. You can take 1 random candle, light it, and you did the mitzvah of Neros Hanukkah. But let me ask you a question. What distinguishes between lighting a candle, 1 candle that's for Ner Hanukkah, and it's not for a yahrzeit, not for light, not for this, not for that? Zok Rabbi Yaakov Emden, I'll tell you what distinguishes. The making the bracha, lahadak ner shel Hanukkah, that bracha is part of the mitzvah itself. Normally we view things, I'm doing a mitzvah, and there's a bracha that comes with the mitzvah. It's an accessory. But here on Hanukkah, the bracha is part and parcel of the mitzvah. Because if the bracha wasn't part and parcel of the mitzvah, what am I doing? Lighting a candle? What makes this a Hanukkah candle? The bracha is what makes it a Hanukkah candle. So that's why when we light the menorah, we make a bracha.
Shechianu.
So Shechianu too. That's fine. I thought you were going to ask me from...
That's a gigantic chiddush.
Yes, it's a beautiful chiddush from Yaakov Emden. But tell me where it doesn't. You might think it doesn't fit. Nerosh Shabbos. Nerosh Shabbos. Would we say the same thing? Right? You light candles. I don't know why for Shabbos. Do you say also over there the bracha is part of the mitzvah? Well, maybe it is. But there's a simple chiluk you could say by Nerosh Chanukah versus Nerosh Shabbos.
Back into it.
Right?
If you lit the Shabbos candle,
Yeah.
then even though you didn't say the bracha, you are still Yotzei. But if you lit the Hanukkah candles and didn't make the bracha, maybe you're not Yotzei.
Okay. Interesting. Maybe according to Rabbi Yaakov Emden, it might come out like that. But the interesting idea is like this. There's 2 different reasons for lighting the menorah. Lighting the menorah on Hanukkah versus lighting candles on Shabbos. The purpose of lighting the menorah on Hanukkah is you're lighting candles to mark the nace that Hashem did with the Jews, saving them in times of the Greeks, the nace of the menorah, all that inclusive. Can you use the menorah? No.
No.
Contrast that to Shabbos. Shabbos, the candles you are lighting are for usage. There is nothing wrong with lighting a candle, just like you would light if there's a blackout, just like anything else. That is the mitzvah, to use a candle for Shalom Bayis on Shabbos. So you don't have to mark it. It's only by Hanukkah where the nature of the candle is going to be different. They're going to light it to mark the miracle. So then you have to designate it. How do you designate this candle that I'm marking it for the miracle? That's with the bracha. And therefore, despite the fact that it's only a minhag, Rabbi Yaakov Endin says you make a bracha on that. But now, once we understand this, there's quite a few practical halachos about lighting Hanukkah menorah, which follows. I'll start with outer cases and I'll come to closer ones. So we talked before about the Jewish malls, right? They put up a menorah in the American Dream. They put up a menorah in, I think it's called Brookshaven, Mosaic. Do they make a bracha there? When they light a menorah, what I see, there's a guy from this neighborhood who's the big Lego maven of the world, the Jewish Lego guy. They flew him into Eretz Yisrael to light. This year, they're going to have the biggest Lego menorah of all time. Guinness Book of World Records. He's in some Lego store in Tel Aviv. That guy, Yitzi's there. He's going to light it. Does he make a bracha in the Lego store?
He's going to.
Huh?
He's going to.
Shh. Don't say that out loud.
Not him, I'm saying.
So send him a clip right here.
There's going to be a bracha said.
L'chara pasha pshat.
There's going to be a bracha made at the game too.
L'chara, please send this out. This should go viral. L'chara, it's very clear, and I'll show you in a moment. It's on the sheets, beferish. Right? Pasha pshat, one should not be making a bracha on any of these lines. Why? We understand why. The whole idea of lighting a Hanukkah menorah outside your home in a shul is a minhag. Being it's a minhag, we just said, the Rabbanim through the ages are struggling, so why do you make a bracha? But that doesn't, the answer they say, fine, it's a chiddush, and it's not so simple to say that. So you have no right to extrapolate and just use this. I'm going to light over here, I'm going to light over there, I'm going to light over there, let's make brachas everywhere. Can't do that. I have it on the bottom of your sheets. But there's no minhag just to light wherever people gather, at sporting events, at malls. Lighting in shul, the Rabbanim first try to understand why we light. And secondly, after we understand why we light with the bracha. And you have to limit that chiddush, this idea, which we just took a few minutes to come, a little bit of explanation. So that's what Minchas Yitzchak says. But, so there's a big shallow, it's questionable, should he even put a menorah in these places? And then he writes, so it's questionable to extend a minhag to light outside of a shul. And it's doubly questionable, absolutely, poskim are saying absolutely not. One should not be making a bracha in these situations. So, Alan, if they call me to light the town menorah here, right, town of North Miami Beach, you should know, get somebody else.
You have somebody already, Rabbi.
One of the years, a rabbi did it, and he made,
No, it's some Chabad.
Oh, you said it like that. Alan, now you understand.
They don't know.
Right.
They don't know, so he could have said Oshrei.
Right. Oh,
Someone was.
Alan is holding from last week's share. He hasn't missed. Right? For those who missed last week's share, you have to go watch it. But Alan just said a beautiful chap. Beautiful chap. Right? We had a whole story last week from Rabbi Yashav like a challenge of like what to do. So he told him the story in Europe of how they were trying to test. I'm saying the story as quick as possible. Test two people to be a Rav of this town. So one, the guy, the pirates, opened up a siddur and told him to read. So the first Rav read what he was open to was Ashrei. The second Rav, when he opened the siddur, his mazel, it was Yotzros. The guy read it ever so carefully, and they gave the job to the first Rav. So Chaim Ozer said to the second Rav, he deserved not getting the job, because he should have also thought to read Ashrei. So Alan just said, if you're called up to light the menorah in front of the city of North Miami Beach, you could say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. No one's going to stop you. Excellent. Yes.
You could start with Hanero Salal, Hashem's name, not him.
Okay. Yeah. But they want to see the benediction. You know, that's the thing. So again, so it comes out from here, especially after we have the whole setup. It's not so simple to light a menorah outside of a shul, and it's doubly very not possible to be making a bracha. That's what the poskim bring down there. And I'll go even closer. You know, it's common in many communities, us too, where they'll have minyanim in houses, for sure, let's say, on a Friday night. Now, if it's in a house itself, there's not much of a hak, because the person in the house already lit a menorah. But what about, let's say you have a house minyan in an unoccupied house. That's where they meet. They'll meet in some place, and they'll make a minyan there. Do you light a menorah in that house?
Or in the backyard.
Oh, you're still doing COVID minyan. Oh gosh.
Or better
Right?
example, you have a Shul menu.
Right?
You're lighting in the Shul at the regular Shul.
That's easier because
And
again,
afterwards, you go out and you have dinner with your family.
right.
So that-
If it's a house where people are living, including the Shiva house, so then the people in the house are going to do the mitzvah. That's easier. But if you have a case of where there's a communal minyan, but it's not a shul. They just have a Friday night minyan. So it's quite questionable there if one lights it. I see.
There's a question of whether anybody other than the Baal Bayis could light it.
Yeah, that's true
Baal
too.
Bayis could light for sure.
That's true too. So in the sefer here from Shmuel Felder, he's a Rav in Lakewood. Here is a tzad maybe to do such a thing. What's interesting, which is also once Alan brought up last week's share, on the bottom of the footnotes, I found in the sefer they bring a stira between two different svarim quoting Rav Yashiv. Unfortunately, what else is new? We talked about last week. Unfortunately, Rav Yashiv's quotes or misquotes, you find lots of contradictions, and you have to research these things well. But I saw Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, Baruch Hashem. We had this sort of meeting last night, some of the Talmidim in the yeshiva. Rav Shmuel Paskins says it's limited dafka to a shul. Only in a shul you would light with the bracha, but one would not light in a house minyan. Now, just quickly touch on a few different halachas. Again, the person lighting the menorah would recite the first night all three brachas, the second night next two. The menorah is usually situated on the southern wall. Now, the actual language of the mechaber is on the wall. The Chavetz Chaim in Mishnah Berurah says, "Oh, al shulchan she'omed eitzel kol sadarm," or on a table. I remember, Camille, you've seen this, Rabbi Walter's Shul in Queens. They actually have it on the wall. Now, on the wall itself, they made a shelf, and that's where they put the menorah. So I didn't ask him, did they do that to Mekayim, the classic words of the mechaber, or
They have no space.
is that just didn't have any space, no place to put a table, and the smartest place is higher up on the wall. Okay, but it makes the whole thing. Of course, I have to get up on a step stool to go up and light it. But okay, there, that is a nice thing. To see the menorah, and their Grada in Yeshiva this year. I think no one's even thought about it. No clue what we're going to light. That's where currently in Gullus, outside of our base medrash, and there is no room in the base medrash to put up a table and light a menorah. So, okay, I assume that will fall on me a little bit later to figure out where to put it. But First, I have to find the menorah. One last interesting shaila Chofetz Chaim himself brings is the ideal time to light. I'll do this, also very important. It comes up a lot. Nowadays, it's very popular in the big cities. They have what you call minion factories. And they can have, you light the menorah commonly with the bracha, let's say before Ma'ariv, right? Actually, the reason they say not to light after Ma'ariv is people are running out. They're running out to go home to light the menorahs. But shuls have multiple minyanim. Do you light it at each minyan? Also, again, not pashat. Pasha says you light at the first minyan, and there you make a bracha. It would be great if you put in enough oil, it could burn through multiple minyanim.
But if it doesn't, then you would light.
But if you don't, you would light potentially.
So if you go to the
With the bracha, I would think not. Though that was really the stealer in Rabbi Yasha. There is one side he brings to himself.
if you go to the earliest mincha at a
Sounds
minion factory, there's no
There's
question
no way.
of lighting.
Oh, yeah.
And the only lighting you're talking about is maybe just not
Yeah.
without brachos daytime anyway.
It's also interesting, there's a discussion, do you light, let's say, you're lighting it before Ma'ariv, and it's getting late, especially on a Friday, and there isn't 10 people there yet. And okay, 10 people are going to come, but the moment they come, we have to start right away because it's late. So can you light the menorah before there yet are 10 people there? So the Chofetz Chaim brings down this dispute. It's not so simple. Rabbi Yaakov Emden, as we quoted before, he says, no, the ikar thing is pursuing Nisa, and you need the 10 people to be there before for you to light the menorah. Important for Gabbai to know.
Can you count the woman for that time?
No. But, I'm not sure. It says makilos. Good question. I'm not
But
sure.
pursuing Nisa in your house is
You could ask your local rabbi. But,
pursuing Nisa inside your home is with one other person.
so
then
that,
why, like,
Josh, take an extra laka. So the Chofetz Chaim says you don't need. Now, Josh, I'll first distinguish. This lighting in a shul is going to be different than your home lighting because of the fact it's a communal lighting, and there is an ideal to have the community, to have 10 people there. But similar, just like in your house, Chofetz Chaim says the ikar mitzvah, the ikar pursuing Nisa, is done just by your lighting. And people seeing it later, okay, that adds to it. But already just the lighting itself, for you, just you, already is a certain element of pursuing Nisa. And the Chofetz Chaim holds that you could light without your tents. You need to count other people. Right? The Chofetz Chaim does possible halacha, you could do that.
You're lighting before the Shema.
Yes. Very good point. Depending on when the Ma'ariv is, you're right. You would end up lighting before this time.
Minion factory today.
Yes.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2:30 minutes.
No.
Light?
No.
no, no.
Talking later. A mincha Ma'ariv.
It has to be after o'clock.
Huh?
So the second day, you light 1 candle or 2 days? Tomorrow, in the middle of the
Oh, no, yeah.
You light 1 or 2?
You always light that night, and even if you miss the night before. It's not fair. No.
It's not
But hold
fair.
on. Let me just. So I think what we got from Share today is hopefully a new appreciation of what exactly this mitzvah is, or be careful how I say it. This minhag is to light a shul menorah. It's not like the regular ner shubeso. It's a totally different idea. It's a minhag. There's a whole question about the bracha, and once we understand that, then we know it's not so simple just to light menorahs here, there, and everywhere, and it's definitely not simple to be making brachos. So you get the word out to it's still called FTX Arena, but right, we should give Sharon that one of these days.
They changed it to FTX list.
FTX.
We call it SB. What's his name? SBF Arena. But
Rabbi, it'll be, they'll have to know whether you can light a menorah or join.
that's one year that should have been enlightened, right? Rabosai, I'll end with this. We really started with talking about Pursume Nisa. Pursume Nisa is not really to the Goyim. The Ikar Pursume Nisa is to the Jews. And as we talked before about, it's unfortunate the state of Judaism in the world with assimilation rising. And I'll tell you one thing, Mr. FTF, Mr. SBF did not go to yeshiva, did not learn basic hilchos of MS, sheker, chesed. Chesed does not mean just giving money to the Democratic Party, but l'maisa.
Jews think so.
Right? They didn't go to yeshiva. So l'maisa, the yontif of Hanukkah is a yontif of pursuing Nisa, and we sit there by the neiros, we should hope that the little bit of light that we have, docha harba min achoshech, and Be'ez Hashem, if that light gets out to more and more Jews, as real true pursuing Nisa, we should merit to see the day of the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu Menorah Amen. Amen. Thank you everyone for coming. Next week is a Hanukkah break, but tune in the week after. We already have a couple topics that people have been asking for. Thank you very much.
Are we going back to cooking lunch?
Something happened in between? Did you have a week in between? It's like Sunday to Sunday.
Buddy, I put up my, this is like a story. I have to buy some brisket, so he puts Menorah.
You can't take me in.
I heard you say that.
Okay, I have to take a look.
You have to